Hi everybody, so we're going to work again on our trio albums, and that's here. And today we're going to work on the pages. And the album is 6.5 by 2 by 4.5. So you want your pages about ½ inch smaller each direction. So we're going to do a 6-inch tall by 4-inch wide page. So and you can fit 8 pages in here with a 1/4 inch gusset and then 1/2 inch gusset in the middle. So we're going to cut these. I got 8.5 by 11. I'm cutting them down to 6. Okay. Now, the way that I do it is I just keep them to length and just score where I want to cut. And let me explain. So you have a 6-inch page, and you have a 2-inch spine, and then you want a 4-inch width. So you score at 4 and 2, and then this kind of hangs off to the side, and then you cut it off at 4. That's the easiest way to do it. And then the next one you're going to decrease the spine width by a ½ inch. So we're going to score. We got a 6-inch. This is 11. I just took an 8.5 by 11, cut it to 6. I'm going to score at 4, and then the width of the spine 2. So it's 6. Okay, and that gives you this. This is too long. You just cut this off. Let me show you how to do that on my small trimmer here. You take and you line up your score line on your 4 inches, and you cut off the excess. And now you have 4 2-inch spine, 4. We're going to do it again for the next one. We're going to cut a piece down to 6 inches. We want this spine piece to be a ½ inch smaller so it fits in between here. So it's only going to be 1.5 inches. So we keep our 4 inches, which is our page dimension. But now we only want the spine to be 1.5 inches. So we're going to go 4 and 5.5. Okay. And now as our spine gets smaller, this page is going to get bigger. So we're going to cut this off at 4 inches again. Line it up on your scoreboard. Now you have a page that fits right in the middle of that one. Let's do it again. This time our spine is going to be 1 inch because we decrease it by a ½ inch. So I cut my paper to 6 inches. Score at 4. And 5. That's my 1 inch. Okay. And now we're going to cut off this at 4 inches. If you want to get really fancy, you can actually score that. You can make that one of your flaps. I don't want to confuse anybody, so I'm not going to do that. The advanced method. It's not that advanced, but we'll keep it simple here. Okay. And then your next one's going to have the ½ inch hinge. Is going to be your last page. So that gives you 8 pages altogether. And I've been doing this method for a few albums now, and I really enjoy making the pages this way. There's practically no hinge system. It's like, and I think the lady who I watched do it, and I can't remember who it was, but she actually like coined it. It's, you know how you have the stack the deck hinges? This is the stack the deck pages. Like, there is no hinge. It's just the page. So we're going to score at 4. And then we're going to score at 4.5. Okay. And we're only doing one album with you. So you can do the albums however you'd like. But the pages are all going to be the same. If we decided to score at 4 inches instead of here, we'd have a huge flap. Feel free to do that. Feel free to make creative decisions. I like, my videos tend to be a little more rambly than other people's videos because my tutorials are like, here, let me show you how to do this. And then you can change it in like a million different ways to make it your own. Because I like to show people how to do things, just like not just how to do one thing. Like teaching the fisherman to fish instead of, you know, feeding him for a day. And then you can watch all sorts of videos and get ideas on pages and make them your own. That's the idea behind it. I'm just reinforcing those score lines. And then we'll glue everything in together. I did watch a video tutorial this morning, and I've never made a folio, and I think I'm going to make a folio because they look fun. Okay, now we take our little book. I have a bad habit of putting that in my mouth and putting my little needle blob, whatever that thing is, that little thing that's on the end. I'll stick it between my teeth. Not a good idea. Not a good idea at all. Of course, like, seamstresses do it all the time, right? Okay, now what's fun about this is you can use score tape if you want. I like using the glue because I can move it if I mess it up. For a little while anyways. So we're going to center this right between the spine. I'll close it to make sure I got it centered this way. And push it down. Okay, 2 pages. That's it. That's all you gotta do. I just like reinforcing both sides to make sure they stick down. They're not going anywhere. Okay. Next is your 1.5 inch spine. Whoops. I've significantly decreased the use of score tape since I started doing it this way. Which, I love score tape, don't get me wrong. But peeling off all those little things. Okay, I want to center this. Now the best thing is that you just center it on the top and the bottom. And the only thing you really have to eyeball is the left and right. And you want it in the center, so you should have about 1/4 inch on each side. If you get it a little off center, it's not going to matter. You just have less room on that side. You won't look funny or anything because we're going to put all sorts of flips and flaps in here. You won't even be able to tell. Okay. And I just kind of squish this way here. Hope you guys can see on the black. I have the light shining in this way, so hopefully you'll be able to see the score lines. I have one kind of like right up above and one off to the side. Okay, same with this. We're going to stick it right in the middle. Whoopsie. That one I got totally off. Just rub that glue off. If I had a wet towel next to me, which I should, and I don't, I'll be able to take care of that easier. Okay, there we go. That one's a little bit off, and you can see here how it's kind of cockeyed a little bit. Trust me, I have done worse. There we go, along the outside. There we go. And this is going to be the big part, and on this album we're going to put a waterfall in the middle. So the middle page here has a 1/2 inch gusset instead of a 1/4 inch gusset. So that's where you're going to put your your bulkiness. Yay. There it is. That's the pages. This is so super simple. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is add the 2.5 inch flap here. Originally this was a full page, like I had a 2.5 inch page, but we're just going to add a flap. So it's a 2.5 inch flap, so we need a 3 inch cut piece of cardstock, 3x6. And I don't think I have any 3 inch wide pieces here. I always check my scraps before I cut a new piece of paper. I'm just pulling out my scraps. Okay, so this is 3 inches wide, a little bit over. And we can make it a little bit over, so let's just... This one's going to be... this is 3 1/4, so we'll make a 2 3/4 inch flap. How about that? So I'm going to score. This is 3 1/4 by 6, and I'm going to score it a 1/2 inch. That's going to be our flap. Reinforce this fold, and then so this should be 2 3/4, and we just want to make a little pocket for them. So I have lots of scraps I can make pockets out of. This one will work well. The page is 2 3/4. I need this an inch bigger, so I have a 1/2 inch on both sides. I'm going to cut it at 3 3/4, and this one happens to be 2.5 inches long, but you don't have to have a 2.5 inch long, just whatever you have laying around. And then we're going to score this at a 1/2 inch on both sides. So that's at a 1/2 inch, and then 3 1/4. And that's going to give us a little pocket. And since we're using the Ephemera Queen, I think if we're going to do any punching for edges, we'll use the doily punch. So this is the Martha Stewart doily punch. They have scallop punch, scalloped edge punches, whatever punch you have. You can also use dies. I prefer the punches because I'm lazy. Getting the die machine out and like cranking all that because I don't have an electric one. I have a Silhouette, not an electric one. And I'll show you on another video how you can like pre-cut all your borders and just layer them on. It's pretty neat, and it suits someone like me who doesn't feel like doing the manual machine. Okay, so now I got my little pocket on my tiny flap here, and then the back is just plain, so we'll add him on there. Do. Oops. And then our flap is going to sit close to this seam, but not directly on top of it, because you want it to open and close. You don't want this thing sticking up. So give yourself a good 32nd of an inch, like just a tiny sliver of that original page. You have like a little bit of buildup there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's just a tiny sliver. And that's going to be our page 1. Okay, so let's go on to the next page, which, if I look in here, is going to be this double flap with the tabs on it. And I don't have a way, these were made by the Cameo, the tabs were. So I don't have any of those laying around. Let's just go ahead and use these tabs that I cut separate. And we can use those throughout the book. And people were asking for these, so I went ahead and put them on my Etsy store, which I have linked below. But if you just want some blank tabs and you don't have a cutting machine, I made them pretty cheap. So we need 2 pages that are going to measure. I wanted to make sure that I'm measuring. This book is just a tiny bit smaller, so keep that in mind. This is, the page is 5 by 3-ish without the tab. So this book's like a 1/2 inch bigger. So let's do I think a 5.5, because that'll still give us a 1/4 inch on both sides. So we're going to do a 5.5 by 3.5. Double check to make sure that 3 inches would be good. Yeah, we'll do a 5.5 by 3.5, 2 of them, and then we'll just add the tab on. So, checking my scraps. I have a pile of scraps over here. That looks like it may be 3.5. There's one 5.5 by 3.5. And I might have to get a new piece out. Oh, this one's good. 5.5 by 3.5. There we go. And then get my scoreboard, and we're going to score at a 1/2 inch on each long side. So we're scoring at either 1/2 inch or 3 inches, depending on how you do it. I like scoring on the further side versus the side by the thing, because I can't get my hand in there because I'm right-handed. I don't know. It makes sense, but if they had to stop over here for me, that would be great. It would probably confuse people, but in my mind, it works better that way. Alrighty, we're going to reinforce our fold with a bone folder that I've misplaced. Oh, there it is, all the way over there. Okay. And then we're going to glue this right inside. And since this page is a flap, we just want to make sure that we don't cover that fold line. It's very important. You probably hear me say it about 100 times. Don't cover the fold lines. Whoops. Because then things won't close. And you'll have the book just kind of standing out. So I'm going to center it on my page. I totally miss centering. There's a little bit more up there, but that's okay. And then this one, we're going to do the same thing. Line that up. We'll line this one up with the outside page opposite this one. And I want them to like be even with each other. So I just lined it up here, so that they're on the same little level there on the page. And now we can put our tabs on. The only thing you want to make sure is that the tab isn't too long and is going to stick in here. So fold your tab in half, or whatever you decide to use. And looks like we're plenty good there. So you got to decide where you want your tabs. This one I use like an upper and or no, I used a lower on the outside and like a middle on the inside. So let's just do it again. So these tabs, I'm going to do the lower on the outside page, and you just stick it on there. Make sure it looks straight. You can always wiggle it around a little if you use glue. Looks good to me, and then we'll do a middle here. I have two different, oh, it looks like I have 3 different sizes in there, so I need to make sure I get the right size. And whenever I cut something like these tabs, let's do upper. I'm thinking upper. But whenever I do something like these tabs, I just bulk cut them. I also cut them if I'm cutting, like I was cutting card boxes for the cards that I make to give away, you know, multiple cards at once. And I just put these tabs on the space that wasn't being filled. So I didn't have any scraps. Okay, so here's your double tab flip page, and you can use, if you have a punch, whatever tabs you have, or you can use a circle punch, fold it in half. It'll just look a little different. Okay, we're going right along now. We got 2 pages done. So let's look back at our gold book. Simple page, it's just a belly band. And I don't typically measure my belly bands, I just use what I have laying around. So this one's going to be quite a bit bigger, but that is what I have. So this is what we're going to use. And the belly band is a super simple page to do. Measure your page, it should be 6 inches. And you're going to cut your paper long ways at 7, so 1 inch bigger, so we have a 1/2 inch on both sides. And this is what I'm talking about, showing you guys how to do something versus like just doing it for you. Like whenever you have a page, if you want a belly band, make it 1 inch bigger, score it a 1/2 inch on both sides, and you have automatic belly band. Do a whole book just with belly bands. I think you would have stuff falling out all over the place, but maybe not. Reinforce these folds. It just makes for a tidier book when you reinforce your folds. Totally not necessary. If you've been watching me for a long time, I don't always do it. And then we're going to eyeball this and center it. Alright. There we go. Page 3 made. And then on page 4 we have a thick pocket. So looks like our original pages were about 5.5 inches. And this pocket's 3 inches. So since we have a 6 inch page, let's go like 3.5, because it's the look, right? So double check my width. I want it, this is a 4 inch page, so I'm cutting my pocket at 5. So we have a 1/2 inch on both sides and 3.5. I don't have any scraps that are that big. I'm cutting into a new piece of paper for the first time since we started the pages. And cutting it 3.5. And I'll cut it 5. 5 by 3.5. When I make my cuts, I try and think what paper, leftover paper, is going to be more useful with the size album that I'm doing. Just something to think about. So I got a 5 by 3.5. I'm scoring at a 1/2 inch on both sides. And of course, if you'd rather use score tape, absolutely use score tape to hold your pockets on. Don't recommend using score tape in the bottom of the pocket because score tape doesn't dry. And you'll just have stuff sticking into your pockets, which is okay. It's not horrible. But sometimes, I mean, sometimes people just stick things in their pockets too soon before the glue's dry. But if you ever see somebody doing a share video and they have something in a pocket and they're like, it's because they use tape instead of glue at the bottom. Okay, here is our pocket. Ta-da! Pocket done. Super fun. Isn't this fun? Okay, let's go on to the next page. We're almost halfway done. So the next page I left plain, but then I added this big flap to it. Okay, so we got a 4-inch page. Hang on. Yep, we still got a 4-inch page, so we're going to make it 3 1/4. That'll give us a little bit of tuck looking behind there. So I want it 6 by 3 1/4, so I'm going to cut it 6 by 3 3/4. And if you wanted to add a deco edge, this would be a really nice place to add that deco edge so you can kind of see it, the layers popping up behind it. And then we're going to score it a 1/2 inch. If you add, like if you have an idea in your head, this is another one of those tips. If you have an idea in your head of what the layers are going to look like behind your punch, you can punch your paper first and then cut it so that you get the right length. Okay, so this one's going on this side, correct? Let me see. Then refer back to my original. Yes, we're going to put this on this side. So just another flap to add interest. Kind of a chunky flap. Okay, here. Leave yourself a little room between your flap and that other score line on the page. The only thing that's going to affect is not all your page mats are going to be consistently the same size. Like this one's going to be just a tiny bit smaller because we just took that off. So just so you know. Okay, now we have this, that page is done. We have this chunky squat little flap, and it's going to measure, oops, it's going to measure 4, and then there's like a 1/2 inch on each side, so 4 by 5. Okay, and that's after it's made. So I want to go ahead and cut this at 5 wide, and then we want to cut at 4 1/2 so that we can use score it. So 5 by 4 1/2, and then we're just going to go ahead and cut this little guy here, and he's a scrap. So this one just happens to be 2 inches wide. Let's try to see if I have a 2-inch wide. I do. So this one is, did I say, this is 5. So I need my scrap for this to be 6 so I can score it on both sides. And that one just happens to be 6. And this is 4 1/2 by 5. I'm going to score on the 4 1/2 each side. Got some stuff on my scory thing. And then this is the 6x2, and we're going to score this at 1/2 inch on both sides, so 1/2 and 5.5. Okay. So, reinforce those folds. Isn't it fun making pockets and stuff? Okay, so do you like the creation process or better, or do you like matting the using the pretty paper and matting everything? I think, this is a pocket. You gotta seal that edge. I think that I like the matting better, but I think if you don't like this part of it, then you're kind of in trouble as far as enjoying making mini albums. However, there's so many tutorials out there. If you just, if you just want to make something, not have to think about it, follow a tutorial. I do. Or I just remake things that I've already made. Okay, so this pocket is going to go right in the middle of this page. Again, leave a little bit of room here. Okay, and there you go. There is page 3, 4? I don't even know, I lost track. We're like almost halfway there. So let's get our original out. That was this page. And, oh, I'm a page behind. No, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, because I added this one. Okay, we're gonna improvise. We have to make another page, guys. Another 2 pages. We can do this. Okay, what kind of pages do we want? I'm just flipping through to see what kind of pages I got in there. Let's do a big horizontal pocket. This is another super easy page. And I just have a scrap here. The scrap happens to be 2.5 inches. And this is 6 inches. Always double check your measurements if you don't remember. Or write them down on a piece of paper as far as how big your pages are. That would probably be beneficial for me. So I cut this to 7 inches so that we have a 1/2 inch on both sides so that we can score it. And that's a 1/2 and a 6.5. Okay. Reinforce the folds. Here is a tip for you guys. If at any point in time you see that one of your folds is crooked, like maybe you folded the, what did they say, the valley instead of the peak, don't try and use it. It'll just frustrate you. It will just frustrate you. Okay, so it's a pocket, so we're going to seal all 3 sides. And we're going to make the pocket going out this way. I have a belly band going on the next page, so I don't want this one too bulky. So let's just add another little flap. Let's just do a tiny flap. This one's it's just in the middle. It's very similar to this page, except for this page doesn't, this one's not going to have a pocket on it. So we have 4-inch pages. I'm going to cut this scrap is about 3.5. I'm going to cut it down to 4.5. So now it's 3.5 by 4.5. I'm going to score at a 1/2 inch. There we go. And here is our improvised page. We can always add like maybe a little tab to the top of that. I think that would be cute. We're going to add tabs to our mats, but adding them to the pockets is, or the pages, is cute too. There we go. If you get it on the back page, don't worry, as long as it doesn't stick, because we're going to mat that anyways. And we got this little interesting flap, and if you want to go, I know I said I didn't want to bulk it up too much, but I can't help myself. This is just what I do. How about adding, I have a 6-inch piece of paper here, measures 6 by 3 3/4. I'm going to score it at a 1/2 inch, making it 6 by 3 1/4. And then we're going to make a flap going that way. You can always add a pocket to the flap. You can add pockets to any flaps that you want. I'm going to line this up with the outside page. And this is kind of what I was talking about when I said that you could, when you were putting your pages in, you could leave that where we cut it off at 4 inches. I said, well, you can leave that and just score it there and make yourself a flap on your page. I'm manually adding this flap, but if you had done that, you would already have a flap. So maybe we'll do that in a different video. Okay, so this is kind of like the big page because they're kind of a pain in the butt to make, but not too bad. You have a 4-inch page, so you want your waterfall to be about 3.5. You want it to be most of the page. So you're going to cut 3.5 strips, 3.5-inch strips out of your pocket, or out of your page. And this is going to take a while, so I'm going to cap my glue. Your page is 6 inches long. So we're going to make them, let's make them 3.5 by 3.5. So let me tell you my math, and it's not rocket science, but it's not, waterfalls aren't always fun. So if you have a 6-inch page, you have 3.5 inches taken up, because that's how big our waterfall is going to be, 3.5 by 3.5. So you have 3.5 taken up, you have 6 inches, you take your 6 inches minus your 3.5, which is going to leave you 2.5 inches left, and each waterfall is a 1/2 inch apart. I like giving myself a little bit of extra room, so I don't like going all the way to the top. So we're going to do 3.5, a 1/2 inch is 4, that's 2, a 1/2 inch is 5, that's 3, a 1/2 inch is 6, that's 4. So my plan is to do 4 3.5 by 3.5 inches page waterfall pages on each side. Okay, so I cut 8 squares at 3.5 by 4, and I am scoring them at a 1/2 inch along the 4-inch side. Which is going to give me a 3.5 by 3.5 waterfall, which I hope is what I said to begin with. I cut one wrong, so I got a little confused. And then, because waterfalls, feel like waterfalls need a little something. I'm going to go ahead and punch the corners. You can round the corners. I use one of these We Are Memory Keeper corner punches. Let's use the stub because I kind of like that one. It just adds just a little bit to it. And you can change, you know, your corner punch depending on what your collection is. And I love the We Are Memory Keepers corner punches because I just punched through 4 pieces of 65-pound cardstock at one time. I think it's great. Okay, so let's go ahead and start gluing down our waterfall. Reinforce all these folds first. And then we just need a couple closures, and I will be using magnets on this page. I think it's the only page that I use magnets on, but I like to keep the waterfalls tidy. And then I think we'll wrap this up and finish off the last half of these pages next week. How about that? So, if your glue starts to dry up and then you put your pen in it, you may get a little clog. What I did. Okay, so I start from the bottom. I'm not going to line it up directly on the bottom because we're going to put that flap there. And give yourself like an 1/8 inch. Center it in the paper. And don't worry about that because we're about ready to cover that up. And there's flap 1. You will see this, or you can cover it with, you know, pattern paper leftovers or washi tape or whatever you have laying around. Okay, your next one, as long as your folds are consistent, this should work just fine. You just line up the next one right on top of that one. If your folds are a little wonky, then it's not going to line up quite right. You may have to do some adjusting. But you see how these line up. I see that I'm also going this way a little bit on the page. May have to make an adjustment there. We'll see. We'll see how bad it looks. All I know is it's not going to come up. Hey, if it looks really bad, I'll show you how to fix a page. I think we'll be okay. It is going up slightly off to the side, but that must be because I laid this one down wrong. Okay, there's one waterfall. And I'm not going to do the next one on camera because it's the same exact thing, just on this side. Okay, so we have a room up here. You could put another one there. You can make it a 5. You know, 5 of them. But since mine's going off this way, I'm going to call it good where it is. And then I'm going to look at my scraps here. This one should be good. So this is another scrap, and it happens to be 2.5 inches. And I want it to end right about here. So let's just measure that. About 4.5 inches long, and then we need a 1/2 inch to score it. So I'm going to cut it at 5, and I need 2 pieces. Okay, one's for this side and one's for this side. You can also have another band coming down from the top if you like. but we'll just keep it like we had the other one. And we're going to score at a 1/2 inch. I'll just score both of them since I'm here. It's a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch. And then I think it's a little different than what I did before, but I think I'll punch these with the opposite side of this punch, which is the deco side. There we go. And then, yep, that's what we want. You just put that down, flip up your waterfall, and line this up with the very bottom of the page. Grab our magnets. Crystal still has some basic gray magnets. I think I'm out of basic grays, but I do have these guys. And we take our score tape, don't put them so close to the edge that you can't cover them. You don't want to not be able to cover them. And there we go. Stick her down. Alright, there we go. It's the first half of our book right there. I'm going to go ahead and do this one off screen because you guys seen me do this side. So, a little short recap here. I have a 1/2 page adder, 2 tabbed flip pages, a wide belly band, a wide pocket, another flap that we added, a thick flat pocket, a horizontal, and an improvised horizontal pocket, and an improvised flap with a double flap there, and then our belly band with a magnetic closure. Alright, so that is the first half of one of the trio albums, and again I'm only going to do one. You guys can see the rest of them. You can make them all the same, you can make them different, however you'd like. And yeah, so far so good. If you have any comments, questions, please leave them below. Head on over to Artistic Studio Creations, ASC Supplies on Etsy, ASCCraftSupplies.com. Use Scrapping Posh 10 for 10% off your normally priced purchases. We'll see you next time. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Bye-bye.